Hey, Jay Stone here, Cap and Ball Fanatic Channel. You just saw the first 6 shots I took with a brand new Cap and Ball revolver that I just took delivery of. It's an 1851 Navy and 44 caliber with a brass frame and deluxe engraving. It feels like it's going to be a good shooter. In today's video, we're going to put this through its paces. We're going to find out if this gun is as good a shooter as my other 1851 Navy and 44 caliber. Stay with us. This is the first time I've used my new Cap and Ball revolver. It's one of the dreaded 1851 Navies and 44 caliber. This is Pietta's Deluxe Engraved version. It's a beautiful laser engraved gun. I don't know if you can see all that engraving up on the barrel and in the back. It's a beautiful piece. Brass frame, 44 caliber. Now I know people get all caught up in the notion of fantasy gun or was it real and all of that stuff. We'll deal with that. I've dealt with it in a previous video, which I'll put a link to this at the end so you can see my true opinion about the history police and whether this thing existed or not. But today, it's the first time I've shot it. So we're going to start off on the bench, and I'm going to try to find this revolver's point of aim at about 22 yards. Now, because it's a brass frame, all the time I'm shooting this today, unless I learn otherwise, is I'm going to shoot 22 grains of 3F shoots in black powder, a 44 caliber lubed wad, and a 454 round ball ignited by number 10 Remington caps. So that's the load I'm starting with. Let's go see what kind of a group this thing shoots. Looks like it's a typical Colt, shooting high, aiming right at the red dot. That's 6 shots off the bench, aiming at the red dot in the center. And it looks like we've got a typical high shooting Colt on our hands, but let's go find out for sure. All right, let's try to put 6 free-handed at about 22 yards on the paper target. Let's see how we do. Six more from right here, about 22 yards. Let's see if we can get any better. Okay, it's taken a minute, but we're getting there. So, as many of you know on this to follow my channel, I don't really care much about people complaining that this isn't historically an accurate gun. Probably the only thing that makes this for sure historically inaccurate, and I'm not even sure for sure would be the right word, is the brass frame and certainly the laser engraving. I don't think in the 19th century they had lasers. Maybe they thought about them, but I don't think they had them. But this is a 51 Navy frame with a 44 caliber rebated cylinder and octagonal barrel. Now, many people have claimed, and most people claim, that this didn't exist in the 19th century as a firearm, even with a steel frame. But if you think about it, it did exist if you round off and put a dragoon barrel on it. because the Navy frame with the 44 caliber and a round barrel is the Dance Brothers Confederate revolver. So some version of this probably did. Who knows if they didn't have them as prototypes with octagonal barrels and figured out that it was cheaper and easier to forge round barrels. I'm still of the mind in history that just because nobody mentions it in their manufacturing documents, and just because we don't have any real pictures of people holding these things, doesn't mean that they didn't exist. So there is a possibility. But in the big picture, who cares, right? So many of these sell. These are probably the most popular cap and ball revolvers selling today. That's why there's so many different versions of them available. They pack a wallop. They fit people's hands really well with the 51 Navy grip, especially somebody like me. And they're an awful lot of fun. So if you're going to a historical reenactment, probably I'm not going to take this with me. But if I'm just shooting for fun on the range, or if I'm going over to the club to shoot for fun, or whatever I'm doing, and I feel like shooting this gun, it's an awful lot of fun. And I don't think me, you, or anybody else, as I've said before, should apologize for shooting a gun that some of the historical police think didn't exist. Well, they only know what they know, and they don't know what they don't know. And that's the fun part of history, is we don't know what we don't know. And everything wasn't recorded, everything wasn't written down, everything wasn't put on camera. And who knows across the West and across the prairies and across the plains if these weren't existing, even if it was just a few. Who knows? So I'm not going to say anything for sure. Did it probably exist? Probably not, other than as a Dancing Brothers with a round barrel. But since we can't be for sure, let's have some fun and let's shoot some steel. Hopefully. It shoots a lot different than my other 51 Navy Win 44 caliber, but that's part of the challenge, don't you think? Hang fire, it still hit it. Oh, okay. That's 5 out of 6 from about 27 yards. You know, this is a fine shooting revolver. Yeah, as I said, I just got it today. These are the first shots I've put through it today. I have not tested it before today. So on paper, I was a little sporadic. As I put it on the bench and sort of figured it out, but I was a little sporadic figuring out my hold. It's got nothing to do with the revolver. It's got to do with me. Now we seem to be finding it a little bit. So now I have moved back. I like it. It's beautiful. It's probably going to end up being on the wall more than it is in my hand or in my holster, because I have another 51 Navy in 44, as you've seen in the other video. But, you know, every once in a while to bring it out and glint in the sun, it'll be kind of fun. So let's see what we can do from about 31 yards on Big Orange. I've learned not to mention that I'm doing all right from here until I'm done. So we're not going to say a word. I'm not even doing well. See what I mean? Now I can say that's 5 out of 6 from 31 yards on Big Orange. Now it seems that I'm finding a little range. And as you look at that orange paint coming off of that target down there, I'm putting them in a decent group, just left of center, about halfway up the target. So that's about where I was aiming. So we're pretty good. As most of you know, I love the challenge of a long shot. I like to finish on a longer shot. Well, first time with a new gun, maybe that's not the time to try a long shot, but I'm at 50 yards, 51 yards, big yellow, and I don't know if I can hit this thing or not. In fact, the older I get, the harder I can barely see it. Didn't hit it that time. No. Boom. There's one. Two. Three. By my count, that's 4 out of 6, or 4 out of 6, right? The last 4 in a row. Did I count that right? Woohoo! We'll take it. So there's our look at the 1851 Navy in 44 caliber. This beautiful cap and ball revolver with the brass frame and the laser engraving. I think you can see it glinting in the sun. Made by Pietta. It was I really enjoyed shooting this gun. It started out a little shaky. I was a little all over the place when we're shooting at paper. But you know what? As time went on, as I started to get the feel for it, just like anything else, you try it for the first time that's brand new, it's going to take you a minute to adjust. It did that with me. So listen, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy your week. We'll be back again next week with another video. This is Jay Stone once again, and we'll see you again on down the road the next time. Earlier, I mentioned that I had an earlier video on 1851 Navies in 44 calibers. So if you want to look into that more deeply, I wish you would. You can watch that video right here.